In a quiet town, Victor Lang, a man with a complicated past, began to plot his first unaliving. He meticulously studied his first victim, Lisa Harrington, a young artist known for her passion and creativity. Victor observed her from a distance, noting her habits and vulnerabilities. He was drawn to her because she often worked late in the studio, leaving her alone during dark hours. Victor approached Lisa under the pretense of being an art enthusiast, complimenting her work and engaging her in conversation. Over the course of several weeks, he gained her trust, discussing art and life as if they were friends. He suggested they meet in a secluded park to view the stars and share artistic ideas. This was the moment he had been waiting for. That fateful night, as they strolled through the park, Victor turned the conversation towards her ambitions. "You know, sometimes artists have to make sacrifices to achieve greatness," he said, his voice dripping with feigned sincerity. Lisa, intrigued, responded, "What do you mean?" He smiled, the darkness in his eyes hidden by a mask of charm. Arriving at a dimly lit section of the park, Victor's demeanor shifted. "I want to show you something," he said, leading her to a secluded bench. As they sat, he leaned closer, whispering, "Art can sometimes require extreme measures." Before Lisa could comprehend his intent, Victor revealed a small, sharp blade. "What are you doing?" she gasped, panic flashing across her face. Victor, with cold precision, lunged forward, silencing her screams with a swift motion. "You'll be part of something greater," he murmured as he unalived her, leaving her lifeless on the ground. The thrill surged through him as he fled the scene, feeling the power of having taken a life. In the following weeks, the town buzzed with the news of Lisa's disappearance. Victor, however, felt untouchable, relishing the chaos he had caused. His next target was Tommy Richards, a local journalist investigating Lisa's case. Victor saw Tommy as a threat. He needed to silence him. He contacted Tommy under the guise of providing information about Lisa. "I know where she was last seen," Victor claimed, his voice steady. "Meet me at the old warehouse, it's safe." Tommy, eager for a lead, agreed without hesitation. On the night of their meeting, Victor arrived early, hiding in the shadows. When Tommy showed up, Victor greeted him with a feigned smile. "I'm glad you came," he said, leading him deeper into the warehouse. "I have important information." As they reached a dimly lit corner, Victor backed Tommy against the wall. "Where is Lisa?" Tommy demanded, suspicion creeping into his voice. Victor's smile widened. "You're too curious for your own good," he replied, pulling out the same blade he had used on Lisa. But curiosity can be deadly. Before Tommy could react, Victor struck, delivering a fatal blow. "You should have stayed away from things you don't understand," he whispered as Tommy fell to the ground. The unaliving was executed quickly, and Victor felt a rush of exhilaration. He left the warehouse, the thrill of power coursing through his veins. The police, still in the dark, were struggling to connect the dots, while Victor reveled in his perceived invincibility. As investigations intensified, Detective Sarah Jenkins began to notice a pattern. Both Lisa and Tommy had crossed paths with Victor Lang. She interviewed friends and family, gathering information that pointed toward him. The more she learned, the more convinced she became that Victor was at the center of the chaos. Meanwhile, Victor plotted his next unaliving. His target was Emily Carter, a social worker advocating for the vulnerable. He viewed her as a threat, believing her compassion could expose him. Victor approached her under the guise of seeking help for a friend in trouble, weaving a tale of despair and need. Over coffee at a local cafe, he engaged her in conversation. "People can be so cruel," he lamented, his eyes narrowing. Emily nodded, her heart sympathetic. "Sometimes it feels like we're fighting a losing battle," she replied, unaware of Victor's true intentions. Victor suggested they take a walk to discuss the matter further. As they walked through the town, he led her to a quiet area where the streetlights flickered ominously. "I want to show you something," he said, directing her to a dark alley. "It's important." In the shadows, Victor turned to Emily, revealing his blade. "You think you can save everyone, don't you?" he sneered. Emily's eyes widened in horror as she realized the danger she was in. "Please, don't do this," she pleaded, but it was too late. Victor lunged forward, unaliving her in a swift motion. "You should have known better," he hissed as he left her there, feeling the familiar thrill of power. The unaliving was executed flawlessly, and he vanished into the night, convinced he had escaped once more. Detective Jenkins pieced together the evidence, realizing that Victor was becoming increasingly reckless. Each unaliving was more brazen than the last, and she knew they had to act quickly. The community was on edge, and the police were under immense pressure to catch the Unaliver. Victor, however, was emboldened by his success. He decided to target Brian Miller, a local bartender who had been outspoken about the violence in the community. Victor believed that silencing Brian would send a powerful message. He approached Brian at the bar, feigning interest in the conversation. "You really think you can change things?" Victor asked, a sinister edge to his voice. Brian, unaware of Victor's true nature, replied confidently, "Yes, we have to stand against this darkness." Victor smirked, realizing Brian's resolve made him an ideal target. "Let's talk more privately," he suggested, leading Brian outside. In the dim light of the alley, Victor turned to face him. "You need to understand the consequences of your words," he said, pulling out his blade. Before Brian could react, Victor lunged forward, unaliving him with brutal efficiency. "You should have kept your mouth shut," he spat as he stepped back, surveying the scene. The thrill of the unaliving coursed through him once more, but this time he felt a lingering tension in the air. Returning home, Victor believed he had outsmarted the authorities yet again. But unbeknownst to him, a security camera had captured the entire act. The police would soon close in on him. Detective Sarah Jenkins reviewed the footage, her heart racing. She recognized Victor immediately. With this evidence, the police launched a manhunt, determined to bring him to justice. Sarah knew they were close. It was only a matter of time before they caught him. Victor, sensing the heat, fled to the outskirts of town, seeking refuge in a desolate area. He believed he could hide in the shadows, but the police were relentless. They had a clear lead and were determined to ensure he faced the consequences of his actions. As they closed in, Victor felt a mix of desperation and fear. He had always thrived in darkness, but now the walls were closing in. He knew he had to confront his pursuers, and in a moment of recklessness, he decided to make a stand. The final confrontation took place in an abandoned warehouse, a place that echoed with his past deeds. Armed with a small team, Detective Jenkins confronted Victor. "It's over, Victor," she declared, stepping forward with authority. "You can't hide anymore." Victor, cornered and desperate, smirked. "You think you can stop me? I've already won." He lunged at Sarah, blade in hand, but she was ready. With swift training and determination, she subdued him, the weight of justice crashing down. "You'll pay for what you've done," she said firmly as he was handcuffed and escorted away. The thrill of the chase had ended, and the community could finally breathe a sigh of relief. With Victor Lang in custody, the town began to heal. The families of the victims gathered for memorials, sharing stories of their loved ones. Detective Sarah Jenkins became a symbol of hope, working tirelessly to support those affected by violence and advocating for change. The trial that followed was a significant moment for the community. Victims' families recounted the lives lost, painting a vivid picture of their loved ones. Victor's defense attempted to portray him as a victim of circumstances, but the evidence was overwhelming and the jury delivered a swift verdict. Victor was found guilty of multiple counts of unaliving, and the gavel struck with finality. The community could finally begin to heal, knowing that justice had been served. As the years passed, the community transformed. Initiatives were established to support victims of violence and promote mental health awareness. Detective Sarah Jenkins led efforts to ensure that the memories of the victims would never fade, creating a foundation dedicated to helping those in need. Victor Lang, now incarcerated, faced the reality of his actions. The shadows that had once given him power confined him to a cell, a bitter irony for a man who had sought control over life and death. His story served as a reminder of the fragility of life. The town, once gripped by fear, emerged stronger. Each year they held memorials to honor the victims, ensuring their stories were never forgotten. The community stood united, vowing to create a safer environment for future generations. With time, the town learned to embrace life again. Support groups flourished, allowing individuals to express their pain and healing. The stories of the unalive victims became a driving force for change, urging others to confront violence and advocate for change. Detective Sarah Jenkins often reflected on the lessons learned throughout her journey. She understood the importance of empathy and community. The darkness that had threatened to consume them had birthed resilience and unity. The memories of the unalived became a catalyst for change, igniting a movement dedicated to preventing future tragedies. Together, they worked to ensure that no one would ever feel alone in their struggle. In the heart of the community, new initiatives blossomed. Programs emerged to support victims and provide resources for mental health. The town became a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the commitment to change. Detective Sarah Jenkins, a symbol of strength, continued her work, advocating for victims' rights. The legacy of the unalived became a driving force for change, urging communities everywhere to confront the shadows and speak out against violence. Through education and awareness, the town ensured that the lessons learned would shape a brighter future. The darkness that once threatened to consume them was now a reminder of the resilience they possessed. As the sun set on the town, casting a warm glow over the landscape, the community gathered to honor the victims. Their lives were celebrated, their dreams remembered. The legacy of hope that emerged from the darkness was a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Victor Lang's story faded into obscurity, a ghost of the past that no longer held power. The shadows that had once consumed the town were replaced by light and hope. Each year, the community gathered to remember the victims, ensuring their stories would never be forgotten. Together they forged a new path, united in their commitment to create a safer world. The shadows of the night had given way to a new dawn, and the town stood strong, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.